Okay, picture this. It's Vienna, September 12th, 1683. For 2 incredibly long months, the city has been pounded into rubble. Its people are starving. But just up on the hills, looking down on all this chaos, a massive relief army has just arrived. And the final, absolutely desperate battle for the future of an entire continent is about to kick off.
I want to start with just one number 18,000. That is the staggering number of horsemen just sitting on those hills above the city, all waiting for a single command. We're talking about a combined force of Polish, German, and Austrian cavalry, all lined up and ready to unleash hell on the Ottoman army down below.
And right at the front of this incredible force is the Polish king, John III Sobieski. He raises his sword, and with one word, he's about to launch what is basically an avalanche of steel and horseflesh that will completely change the course of history. So how on earth did we get here? How did the fate of all of Europe end up hinging on this single massive charge? To really understand that moment, we have to rewind a bit, because this fight wasn't just about saving one city. Oh no. It was about the prize that Vienna represented. To the great powers of the 17th century, Vienna wasn't just a city. It was the key to everything. Now, this conflict didn't just pop up overnight. It was literally centuries in the making. You can trace it all the way back to 1453, when the Ottomans captured Constantinople. From that point on, their empire just kept expanding west. They even took a crack at Vienna back in 1529. For the next century and a half, things were tense, a real simmering frontier, until 1682. That's when Sultan Mehmed IV decided, you know what? It's time to finish the job and strike right at the heart of his great rival. So, why Vienna? What's the big deal about this one city? Well, you just have to look at a map. It sits at this perfect crossroads between Eastern and Western Europe. It guards the main highway, really, formed by the Alps and the Danube River. They called it the key to Europe, and they weren't kidding. If you took Vienna, you could unlock the path to invade the rest of the continent. The Ottomans knew it, and the Habsburgs knew they had to hold it no matter the cost. Then this really gets to the heart of it. This was a massive clash of legacies. For the Ottoman sultans who were ruling from Constantinople, the old capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, conquering the West was about cementing their claim as the true heirs to the Roman legacy. But for the Habsburgs, this was about survival. It was about protecting their Holy Roman Empire and, as they saw it, defending all of Christendom. So you have these two colossal empires with two totally different visions for the future about to collide right here. Okay, so the stage is set. The massive Ottoman army arrives at the gates of Vienna, and for the next 2 months, the people inside those walls are going to experience a living hell. The Ottoman strategy for taking a city was terrifyingly effective. First, they dig this incredible network of zigzagging trenches. This allowed them to slowly inch their soldiers and cannons closer and closer to the walls without being shot at. Then, of course, came the nonstop artillery bombardment day and night. But the real game changer, the thing they were really focused on, was getting underneath the city's massive walls. This part is just insane. While all this chaos and cannon fire is happening up top, a totally different war was being fought in complete darkness, deep underground. Ottoman miners, called sappers, were digging these tunnels to place gigantic barrels of gunpowder right under the walls to blow them up. So what did the Viennese defenders do? They dug their own tunnels, countermines, and they would just listening for the faint sound of digging, trying to find the Ottoman tunnels and stop them before they could light the fuse. It was a deadly, claustrophobic nightmare. And the human cost of this siege, it was just staggering. After 2 months, the city was at its absolute breaking point. 2/3 of the soldiers defending the city were gone, either killed in the fighting or dead from disease and starvation. The commander was left with only about 5,000 men healthy enough to actually fight. I mean, just think about that situation. The defenders are starving, they're exhausted, they're completely outnumbered, the main walls are literally about to crumble. It really, really looked like the fall of Vienna wasn't a question of if, but when. So, was all hope lost? Well, not quite. Because while Vienna was suffering, the emperor and the pope had been sending out desperate pleas for help. And those pleas had been answered. A massive, unprecedented coalition army was on the march. So let's look at the two sides facing off for this final showdown. You've got the Ottoman Grand Vizier, Kara Mustafa, with a huge army, somewhere around 170,000 men in total. On the other side, the relief army, led by King John III Sobieski of Poland, is less than half that size, maybe 80,000 troops. But, and this is a big but, what they had was a potent mix of Polish, Austrian, and German soldiers, including what was probably the most feared heavy cavalry on the planet, the Polish winged hussars. Now, this is the moment where the Ottoman commander makes a critical, maybe even arrogant mistake. He sees the relief army gathering on the hills, and he has a choice to make. He can turn his entire army around to face this new threat, or he can try to do both at the same time. Convinced that Vienna was just hours away from surrendering, he chose to keep his best troops, his elite janissaries, focused on the siege, and he sent only part of his army to try and hold off 80,000 men. It was a massive gamble that was about to go very, very wrong. Which brings us right back to the morning of September 12th. The night before, the defenders in Vienna had seen the signal fires from the relief army on the hills. Everybody knew this was it. This was the day it would all be decided. The battle was a brutal all-day affair. It kicked off at 4 o'clock in the morning, with the Ottomans trying to hit the coalition's flank. All through the morning and into the afternoon, the Austrian and German troops just methodically pushed forward, capturing key villages and high ground. By late afternoon, the Ottoman troops trying to hold them back were exhausted, and they were getting squeezed in a pincer movement. Their lines were starting to buckle. And this is the moment we've been building to. It's 5 p.m. King Sobieski sees the enemy is starting to break, and he gives the order. 18,000 horsemen, led by 3,000 of his own elite winged hussars, they come thundering down the hillside. It's an unstoppable wave of lances and armor that just smashes directly into the tired Ottoman flank, and it shatters their formations and their will to fight in a single instant. The largest cavalry charge in history had just broken the siege. The impact of that charge was immediate. It was absolute. The Ottoman army didn't just retreat, it completely fell apart. And that collapse would lead to one of the most important turning points in all of European history. Standing in the unbelievably luxurious tent of the Grand Vizier that he had just captured, Sobieski sent a message to the Pope. He tweaked Julius Caesar's famous line, and he wrote, "We came, we saw, God conquered." It just perfectly captured the epic scale of what had just happened. For the Ottomans, the consequences were a complete catastrophe. They ran, leaving everything behind, their cannons, their supplies, all their treasure. The disgraced commander, Kara Mustafa, was executed on the Sultan's orders a couple of months later. But more importantly, this massive victory inspired a new Christian alliance, the Holy League, which would finally go on the attack, starting the long, slow process of pushing the Ottoman Empire back out of Central Europe. So let's be really clear here. The Battle of Vienna was way more than just one victory. It was the turning point. It was the high watermark of Ottoman expansion into Europe. From this day on, the tide turned for good. The empire would now be on the defensive, and it would never again pose such a direct threat to the heart of the continent. That charge of 18,000 horsemen stopped the Ottoman advance cold. But it does leave us with a pretty wild question to think about. What if that charge had failed? What if the walls had been breached just a few hours earlier and the city had fallen? How different might the map, the culture, and the history of Europe and maybe the entire world look today?